Queer News Tonight celebrates 3 years as the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show. 3 years ago, this week, on January 6, 2020, a new show was born. It started with a small set at the World's Aid Museum in the heart of Wilton Manors. Originally, the show was called Q News Tonight to reference the queer community without using a word that some might felt be offensive. The show began with only 3 anchors: lead anchor Al Ferguson, actor and geek culture personality Napoleon Plays, and political activist Aaron Darr. 2 weeks later, on January 23rd, we became one of the first LGBTQ+ media outlets to report on a new virus that had appeared in Wuhan, China, that the WHO issued a warning about. On March 19th, we presented our first special edition episode called our Q&A on coronavirus. It featured Fort Lauderdale Mayor Dean Trantelis, Dr. Bo Sharma from Cannes Community Health, and infectious disease specialist Dr. Stephen A. Renee. It focused on how this new pandemic would affect the LGBTQ+ community. Starting April the 1st, Aaron Darr would be replaced by Misty Eyes, and Q News Tonight would report on the diagnosis of It's Happening Out host chef Josie and Ron Bernensky with COVID-19 and Ron's eventual death from the disease. In June of 2020, the rise of the online hate group QAnon would cause social media algorithms to flag Q News Tonight as part of their network, leading to the relaunch of the show as Queer News Tonight. The show has continued to document historic events around the world and specifically how and why they matter to the LGBTQ+ community since then. I'm really glad that name change was made from Q News Tonight to Queer News Tonight because of QAnon. I didn't even know it was called Q News Tonight. It was a very good change.
You know, it's interesting in the longevity. Scott's been around for a long time. When I was the principal lead anchor when the show launched, nothing like this had ever been done. Daily news. We had no teleprompters. We're in teleprompters tonight for our stories and talking. Probably people have figured it out, but when we started Queer News, there were no teleprompters. So the anchor told the story with no written word. And we would tell the story with the headline and tell the story, and then we would have conversation about the story. Had never been done before. It's very interesting that Q News Tonight, Queer News Tonight, will forever be remembered as launching at the same time that coronavirus launched in the United States, because on the exact same days it was beginning in Seattle, Washington, and what happened. One of the things I'm very proud of, and as we celebrate this milestone that's going to happen this week, is Queer News Tonight never stopped broadcasting. We broadcast every single night through a pandemic. We're here tonight. Lots of different protocols. We went through a process where Chef Josie, by the way, the owner of Bubbles and Pearls, as a participant anchor, was one of the first people in South Florida that was diagnosed with coronavirus and continued to test positive for 46 days. Now we think back on that and going, how is that possible? Because we know now that that was not possible. But she continued to test positive and was in quarantine isolation for 46 days. And Ron Bernensky, one of our anchors, was at the show and 2 days later tested positive. And Queer News Tonight and It's Happening Out cast, to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, in South Florida had the first collection of advanced testing of coronavirus that I'm aware of in South Florida. We were all quarantined in our individual homes, and a nurse came to our houses and apartments for us to test. That's when Josie was identified, and the reason why that happened is because 2 days after one of our broadcasts, Ron Bernensky went into emergency and never came out. and died approximately 40 days later on incubator. And then the countless stories that we have done. We reported in 2022, we did approximately 2,200 LGBT stories in 2022.
Good job, Al.
And I always appreciated that Queer News continued to every day bring the stats of what's happening around the globe and around the, you kept it at the forefront of people's minds, even as it had started to, every day for probably 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
So
we didn't stop until the first quarter of 22, really in terms of comfort. So we congratulate everyone that's participating. We congratulate the people that are sitting at this table. We're a nonprofit. First off, we're a 501c3. There are more than 200 voices, like the voices and faces that you see at this table, that represent and tell news all through the year. And they represent everything that the diversity of our community does. Scott and I represent one face, you represent a different face, you represent a different face, you represent a different face. The other thing that I think is really a celebration for Queer News Tonight and this anniversary that will happen this week is the entire show has been turned over to different representation in our community. Scott was the first organization that we embraced for what was happening on from Tallahassee on Don't Say Gay, and we do a television broadcast of Queer News Tonight with all high school students, and one of the anchors is a senior at Fort Lauderdale High School interviewing the gay mayor of the city of Fort Lauderdale. That is a triumphant moment to have 6 students, gay, LGBT students. We've done all trans cast, talking about all trans stories, Black, Latino, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's been quite an experiment, and now it's moved to Apple Television and Roku. And from those humble first starts at the World AIDS Museum on Wilton Drive, quite an amazing
congratulations and thank you, because what you've created has given us all a platform and allows us to use our voice and to be a part of something bigger. So, congratulations to you.
To all of
us.
us.
So much.
Absolutely. And I think that a big part of this is that young people get to see themselves on the television.
Yeah.
And for such a long time, I'm a young kid of the 80s. And so for a long time, I did not see people that looked like me. And so all of a sudden now we have a platform where we can see people that look like us, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have to hide. We don't have to hide who we are, because we can identify with that person on a television screen. So I think it's amazing, and congratulations to this 3-year anniversary. It's a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere.
We're not going in.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.